Neil Ratner Rock Doc here with a story. And I'm back in Woodstock. Today I'm going to talk about the close friendship between John Lennon and Elton John. Now, although Elton John and John Lennon knew each other a little bit from the old days when Elton worked for Dick James, who was the Beatles' publisher back in the day, they really became friendly when Elton asked Lennon to come to the studio to play on his version of the Beatles song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Okay, so the song was recorded at the Caribou Ranch in Colorado, and Lennon sang backing vocals and played guitar. Now, Elton was glad to repay the favor later that year when John asked him to come and record with him in New York for his new album, Walls and Bridges. Elton ended up playing piano and singing harmony on Whatever Gets You Through the Night, and Hammond organ and background vocals on Surprise, Surprise, Sweet Bird of Paradise. Now, during the recording of Whatever Gets You Through the Night, Elton was so excited about the song that he made a little bet with John. And as Lennon would later say, he sang harmony on it, and he really did a damn good job. So I sort of half-heartedly promised that if Whatever Gets You Through the Night became number one, which I had no reason to expect, I'd do Madison Square Garden with him. So, now, John wrote the song during his so-called lost weekend when he was with May Pang. And according to Pang, at night he loved to channel surf, and he would pick up phrases from all the shows. One time, he was watching Reverend Ike, a famous black evangelist. Now, I don't know how many of you had seen Reverend Ike back in the day, but he was a trip. He was like a rock star in his own right. And Lennon watched him, and he was saying, "Let me tell you guys, it doesn't matter. It's whatever gets you through the night." Now, John loved the expression and said, "I've got to write it down or I'll forget it." And he always kept a pad and pen by the bed. And that was the beginning of the song, Whatever Gets You Through the Night. Okay. Now, this week in November 1974, you know what happened. The song, Whatever Gets You Through the Night, went to number one in the U.S., and of course, Elton made a phone call to John Lennon and said, "Remember when you promised?" And of course, Elton was scheduled to play Madison Square Garden on November 28th of that same year, 1974, a couple of weeks later. And he expected John to pay up. All right, I think it's time to listen to the song. Whatever gets you through the night, it's alright, it's alright. It's alright. Okay, now, Lennon hadn't made a full-length performance since 1972's one-to-one concert, also held at the Garden. And to get over his pre-show jitters, he'd actually slipped into an earlier Elton John show at Boston. "I was thinking," this is what Lennon said, "thank God it isn't me," as he was getting dressed to go on. "I went through my stage fright at Boston. So by the time I got to Madison Square, I had a good time. And when I walked on, they were all screaming and shouting. It was like Beatlemania. I was thinking, what is this? Because I hadn't heard it since the Beatles. So with his black Fender Telecaster, Lennon performed a total of only 3 songs. This one, Lucy in the Sky, and a Beatles song from way back. And according to Lennon, he suggested I saw her standing there. And I thought, great, because I never sang the original of that. Paul sang it and I did the harmony. And Lennon introduced the song by saying, we tried to think of a number to finish off with so I can get out of here and be sick. And we thought we'd do a number of an old estranged fiance of mine called Paul. This is one I never sang. It's an old Beatle number and we just about know it. So Lennon later admitted that Elton was in tears on stage, and he went on to say, I just went up and did a few numbers, but the emotional thing was me and Elton together. Elton had been working in early Beatles music publisher Dick James's office when we used to send our demos in, and there's a sort of relationship musically with Elton from way back. Well, it meant a lot to me, and it meant a hell of a lot to Elton. And by the way, Elton John happens to be Sean Lennon's godfather. All right, that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. Neil Ratner Rock Jock, have a great weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow for another one. All right. All right now, see you tomorrow. Have a good one.